How's it going, guys? So we're back. It is day 4 of Worlds. We're finally done with the first week of groups, and so I just want to kind of go over and talk about points, things to take away from the first week, as well as things to look forward to in week 2. Now, the number one thing that I want to bring up, and it's most people are going to bring up the Western teams, maybe the lack of talent or the lack of performance coming from China. And we're going to talk about those things. Those things are really important. I think the more important thing though to talk about is sort of the meta, specifically targeted at Darius. We've seen Darius with an extremely high pick ban rate. Well, not so much a ban rate, but a very, very high pick rate. And top lane is sort of the focus in picks and bans with with the Gangplank, with the Fiora, Garen, and all the juggernauts really. And so that's really the focus of this meta from what we've seen so far. And so a lot of teams are defaulting back onto the Darius. Now, here's my feeling on it. My feeling is that Darius is an extremely strong pick. I think he's a strong champion. He can really carry a game. But I think he's on that lower tier of top tier picks, if that makes sense. Like, I still think he's in that top tier, but he's on that low end of that top tier. And so while it makes sense if these picks are gone, go ahead and take Darius. That logic makes sense in theory, but overall I feel like teams are overvaluing him a little bit. Darius does have a good amount of damage, gets really tanky, just a solid champion overall, but he has trouble getting into fights and trouble getting away from fights. Just the mobility of him is a very, very big problem. The problem that we're seeing is that he's being picked so early in the draft that teams are just picking Gnar or picking very mobile comps to go ahead and deal with the Darius, and so he's having a very ineffective game. Again, we're talking about sort of the matchup we've seen all the time is the Darius Gnar matchup, and Gnar pretty much counters Darius just with his mobility. Gnar is able to not only attack from range, but once he gets those 3 stacked, it slows down Darius and also speeds up the Gnar. So it makes that problem of mobility even worse. When he's getting chased down, if he gets ganked, he can get chased down. If he's getting a gank, Gnar can just get away, all kinds of stuff like that. And you're seeing teams sort of pick for the Darius as well, so picking Darius really early and then picking a comp around it. I still don't think he's that strong to go ahead and pick an entire comp around. If you're picking slows and lockdowns around getting the Darius in there, his lane has to be extremely safe. But again, it's hard to go ahead and lane with the Darius because then you just get a Gnar or something else that can counter it, and it just becomes a big problem. I expect teams to go ahead and let Darius through the draft a little bit more, maybe picking him on the 2nd or 3rd rotation rather than in the first 2 or 3 picks. Now, let's go ahead and get into the individual teams. I think the bigger story here is the sort of Western dominance. I can call it dominance because it's pretty apparent that the Western teams are damn strong. We have in Group A, we have Counterlogic Gaming tied with Coup Tigers for the top. They're 2-1. Group B, we have Fnatic and Cloud9 at the top. Well, Cloud9 is 3-0. Fnatic's 1-2. But Fnatic's definitely putting up some great games against Invictus and AHQ. Group C, H2K, they're 1-2. But to be fair, that they're not winning against SKT or EDG anyway. And then Group D, Orihen is 3-0, and then TSM is 1-2. Again, but all the matches are great. This is the first time we're really seeing Western teams perform at this level against the Asian teams. You could say, maybe against in season 2, right? Season 2, season 1, I don't count those because it wasn't fully open to the Western or the Asian scene yet. So season 3 is the one I really consider to be the true detriment or the true vision of what Worlds really is. Now, not only are these teams playing extremely well, like not most likely the way it looks, Orihen, Cloud9, and CLG are all getting out of groups. That's a guaranteed 3 Western teams in top 8. That's crazy. If you would have asked this beforehand, I would have said 2 teams are going to get out. Uh, this is absolutely insane. I meant 2 teams are going to get out for certain. Like I thought CLG and Fnatic were getting out for sure. Now we have Cloud9, Ordihen, and CLG most likely all getting out, and then Fnatic probably on that teetering edge. But that Group B is so wide open; they're probably getting out the way Invictus and AHQ are playing. And so now if Fnatic gets out, that's 4 teams, Western teams in top 8. That's absolutely insane when you think about it. That's half of the entire draw. That's half of the top 8 going over to Western teams, and also that's 4 of the 6 teams getting out. That's crazy. That's awesome. And even though, like, if TSM or H2K don't get out, like H2K is playing okay, TSM's actually playing really really well. I think Ordihen and KT are just playing better, but TSM is playing extremely well, a lot better than I thought they would have. And then CLG, C9, and Fnatic all look like teams that could win the entire thing at this point. Again, we have to see how this unfolds, but through the first week, it looks that way. Now, on the other spectrum of this, we have the Chinese teams, and sort of where have they gone? LGD was a team that a lot of people picked to win. Like, they're one of the 3 teams with SKT and EDG that could go ahead and win this entire tournament. And they're 0-3. They're playing terrible. Kid and Kitties look like they belong in like challenger scene. Like they're playing terrible. And I'm very surprised at LGD's play so far. Or not. I'm sorry, not Kid and Kitties. Wow. Let's roll that back. Acorn and TBQ, I'm sorry, are playing extremely poorly for LGD. I'd be very surprised if we don't see Flame at some point in this tournament. Acorn is, I think, the better top laner for this team. I think Godv sets the pace. Imp is the main carry, and then Acorn is that supportive top laner that they really need. And then TBQ is sort of just, and PYL are just sort of around to help. But I think that Flame fits this meta better, of this carry style top laner. Better than Acorn does. And Acorn has been having an extremely hard time, especially in his group against Soaz and Someday and Dyrus. He's just been having a hard time. And so I'd be very surprised if LGD doesn't roll the dice and just give Flame a shot. They have to ignite the flame. Okay? So we're gonna use that flame. We're gonna use the phrase ignite the flame. Okay? Now, moving forward from there, let's move on to the next team. That's the next Chinese team. It's Invictus Gaming, right? Invictus Gaming. What can we say about Invictus Gaming? Invictus Gaming is a weird anomaly because they are playing... Like, we saw one game where they played extremely well, right? And the other 2 games, you could see little snippets of how good they could be. Zatai, Kakao, and Rookie are playing very, very well. But the weak points, again, are Kid and Kitties. They're playing absolutely terrible. They're getting caught out. They're getting caught out at inopportune times. They're feeding a lot of the times in bot lane. They're pushing too far forward. All kinds of stuff. You can list the myriad of troubles that they've had throughout this entire tournament. So far, they could fix it. The last game we saw, they looked very, very good, and the team looked in sync. But who knows, right? And then we have Edward Gaming. Now, a lot of people would say Edward Gaming looks really good. They're 2-1. The only team they lost to was SKT, who's probably the favorite to win this entire thing. But I offer you this. The 2 teams that Edward Gaming has played and won against are H2K and Bangkok Titans. Those are probably the 2 weakest teams in this entire tournament. Bangkok Titans for sure. H2K, you can make the argument that they're a terrible, terrible team, right? And then when they did play SKT kind of rolled over them pretty easily. Marin carried and Faker played okay, but they won that. There was no threat of EDG ever winning that game. So I have to see more out of EGG, especially in that second matchup against SKT, to really see how they fit. But so far, they have not impressed me. Snowballing and dumpstering Bangkok Titans and H2K does not mean much to me, and so it'll be interesting to see how they move going forward. Um, so yeah, I mean, this is sort of my thoughts on the entire Worlds week so far. Those are the three main points. It's Darius and where does he fit in the meta. It is how crazy this entire thing has been with Western teams, and just the absolute horror that is what is happening to China. Uh, Otherwise, everything's pretty much going as expected. Pain Gaming's probably the best team that we've seen, wildcard team that we've seen at Worlds. Flash Wolves is surprising people. AHQ is still a very strong team. Ziv is showing that he's really the carry. Him and Westor are pretty much the carriers of or AHQ, and so depending on how they go, they can win matches pretty easily. And then Korea's dominant, pretty dominant. Ku Tigers and KT Rolster are both 2-1, winning pretty good games. Definitely doing their research. You can definitely tell the research in both of their draft phases, and then SKT just being what looks like the best team in the tournament so far. But yeah, guys, that's my thoughts on week 1. We'll be back on the 8th. On the 8th, we're going to go ahead and watch the start of the second week, and we'll start doing this video series again then. But guys, please sit back, relax, get some sleep, and then we'll go ahead and get back with week 2 of World Championships.